ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel here on the Audacity Network, and welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily, where I cover this week's treachery, debauchery, and craziness. Before we start, we do have a couple announcements. This week and next week, we are switching our time to 5 o'clock Central, so let me know in the comments if you guys prefer this time to watch the show live instead of 3 o'clock, which is what we did last week. Also, if you want to support my work, please go to theaudacitynetwork.com. That's theaudacitynetwork.com. We are currently demonetized on this channel, and so that really helps us keep the lights on, fly in guests, and upgrade the sets. And an example of a video I want to do is we want to visit an Amish community, but that stuff takes time, effort, money, in order to film, edit, etc. So the memberships really help. We also do a 30-minute show after the show where you guys can interact with me. It's a lot of fun. We play games on there. We do Q&A, so, sign up. Okay, so today's show, you guys know, some days I go on Twitter and I just see a video that sort of makes me think. And I went on Twitter today, or X, and I get amazed at times how oftentimes issues that are not women's issues are turned into women's issues, and how little attention men's issues get. And what made me think of this was I saw a video by Alex Clark. And Alex Clark is a female conservative commentator, and she was talking about how there's issues in the food supply. And I'm going to go through this, but before I do, guys, we do have some breaking news that this is the problem these days. It's a no wonder you see testosterone levels of men declining 1% a year. The average testosterone level is half of what they were 50 years ago. This is one of the foundational psychological reasons why society is crumbling and in the state that it's in. These women are getting away with murder, and there is a simp epidemic. Testosterone levels are so low, and something needs to be done about it. Chalk is on a mission to save mankind from extinction by boosting your vitality. When you boost your testosterone, you'll have more mental clarity. You are more capable of making decisions and taking risks. Having high testosterone will also affect your pheromones, so women will find you more attractive subconsciously. Get the Chalk Male Vitality Stack on chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. Chalk provides the highest quality herbal supplements clinically studied to boost your testosterone. Their tongue cat is wild harvested from the Malaysian rainforest and is studied in double-blind human trials to boost free testosterone levels 87% in 27 days. Use my name Pearl as your coupon code and you'll get 25% off site-wide on chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. Coupon code Pearl. Boost your testosterone naturally and supercharge your masculinity. Don't be a simp. So, what I have noticed when I found out that women make 80% of consumer buying decisions, what I've noticed is common for women is to operate in a state of fear. And what happens is people come in and say that the water supply is poisoned. Buy my water supplement. Or I'm trying to think of another one. The non-stick toxic pans. And what I'm not saying is that there's not any truth to that, right? But what I am saying is I do think that the market capitalizes on female neuroticism because we're very anxious and we have a tendency to think everything is the end of the world, and where men have a tendency to stay more calm. And when I saw this video of Alex Clark talking about how The water supply is poisoned. The food supply, the toxins, GMOs, all that stuff. All I could think about was how there is someone out there making so much money off of female neuroticism. So I'm going to play this video. So it's Alex Clark testifying at a Senate hearing on chronic disease.
The best for last. Our next presenter is Alex Clark. Ms. Clark is a food activist, advocate for healthier food systems, and the host of Culture Apothecary podcast. She is committed to educating consumers on the importance of organic farming and the dangers of harmful additives in food products. Clark's mission is to inspire positive change in both personal health choices and industry standards, driving the movement toward cleaner, more responsible food production. Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Senator. My average listener, like me, is a woman in her late 20s and early 30s, and we demand accountability for how the millennial generation was turned into a science experiment without our informed consent for the sake of enriching big pharma, big ag, and big food. Millennial women have started to have kids for the first time, and they are disillusioned with how hard it has become to not only get pregnant, but also raise kids who are healthy, happy, and mentally.
Okay, so when you guys hear people talking about problems, the first thing you have to understand about media is problems are always going to get more clicks than solutions. And the second question we have to ask is this true? Is it true? Let me replay it so I don't misquote her.
Started to have kids for the first time, and they
are women having a lot of children? Are women having children at all? That's my first question. What would, not what we want to be true, right? What would the data indicate is true? When we look at the birth rate, is it increasing or decreasing? Okay, decreasing. When we look at the number of children per family, is it going up or is it going down? Down. When we get the option to postpone motherhood or have it sooner, what do we pick? I'd like to say this is not a moral statement. This is not me saying worse or better, but describing, because as a journalist, as someone that runs a show, my priority is to be as accurate as possible. Okay, so I'm going to continue.
Disillusioned with how hard it has become to not only get pregnant, but also raise kids who are healthy, happy, and mentally well.
Okay, so why is it hard to raise kids that are healthy, happy, and mentally well? Why is it hard to get pregnant? And what I've found is many people use things as a buffer. So in this case, my generation of women, millennial women, waited to have children. We got on birth control young. These were our choices, okay? Not good, not bad, just these were choices. And now when you have a whole industry saying you guys can just blame the food industry and blame all of these companies for your problems, we're jumping on that. We're biting. The internet's been around since I was 14. I understand it's very confusing, right? I understand it's super confusing to figure out what's healthy, what's not healthy, but I'll use myself as an example. I've spent a lot of time getting in shape the last 6 months and eating better. I have known for years that I eat too much sugar. I knew this. I didn't need, there wasn't some company that tricked me into this, but it was because I wanted this food and that's what I would buy. And so many times the companies are just catering, they're trying to make money, and we pick the unhealthy stuff. And then later we cry and pretend, oh, I didn't know. The internet has been around for a decade. I understand it's confusing, but life is about choices and trade-offs. And if we made the choice to not look into what we are eating Whose fault is that? Is it the companies? Or is it us?
Today, I am proud to represent them. The poisoning of our food and the environment is the issue for these independent women. It is devastating us and our children. My name is Alex Clark, and I host Culture Apothecary. By virtually every measure, millennials are more health conscious than any generation before us.
Okay, again, I wanna just ask the question, is that true? Are we more health conscious when the average woman and man, right? When both genders are overweight, the majority are overweight. And the next question is being overweight something in our control? Do these food companies, do they magically make us eat too much? Is this in our control?
But at the same time, we are also the sickest. That is, until our children end up surpassing us. The next generation of children is predicted to not outlive their parents if we continue on the trajectory that we are currently on. When in human history has that ever been the case? We are fatter than any prior generation at this age. We're having more fertility issues. New cancer diagnoses in the US are projected to top 2 million for the first time.
So what's the easier choice to blame for these women? What's the easier choice? Is the easier choice to say, hey, companies, it's your fault? Or is the easier choice to say, hey, maybe I eat too much and I need to fix that?
This year, and these new cases are almost all driven by young people. This is according to American Cancer Society data. What happened? Growing up, millennials were handed.
We ate too much. We ate too much sugar. Yeah.
Health advice that was inaccurate, mistaken, or downright fabricated. Almost everything that we were taught about food and health was made up. The only guidance that we received on what to eat came in 1992 via the food pyramid, a completely manipulated work of fake public health.
Okay. Let's take this food pyramid excuse. I was also taught the food pyramid. When I was in high school and middle school, that was what they taught at my school. The first time I remember hearing about that it was fake was a decade ago. In my case, it still took me a long time to change my eating habits. That was a choice. So, when has the internet been accessible to everybody? A decade. So I'd say it was the sugar as soon as we started shoving our coffee down our gullets. Yeah, and this is the thing is, and I try to say this to women, right? Everybody makes money off of us. And so it's much easier for them to sell us something as a solution or blame a company, a corporation for our decisions and sell us the answer to our problems.
Crafted by the Department of Agriculture.
They said, Pearl, it's both issues. Look, I'm not saying that it's not, that there's not birth control in the water, that there's not unhealthy food. What I am saying is the internet is here. There are healthy people every day that figure out the answers. And as an adult, it's on you to figure it out. There are people in third world countries that do not have access to clean water, that are living in dire poverty. And yet we complain more when we have access to more technology and more healthy food.
Sure. The food pyramid told us that all fat was bad, a lie. It told us to make complex carbs like pasta, bread, and processed breakfast cereal the bedrock of our diet, not because it was healthy, but because it was the most profitable recommendation for big ag and big food. We became the first generation subjected to sugary, fattening, inflammatory foods deliberately engineered to be as addictive as heroin, thanks to the food companies buying the scientists from the cigarette companies for that exact purpose.
So I have a different theory on this stuff. I think that businessmen are not nearly as nefarious as you guys think. I think they said, look, these people love sugar. They want to make money. These people love sugar. The companies wanted to make money. And they said, look, they're eating it anyway. Let's just be the source. Sure, I'm sure they made some misleading marketing materials, but I don't really buy that it was some grand plan.
In the 80s and 90s, the same era as the food pyramid scam, youth obesity tripled from 5% to 15%. Today, in 2024, close to half of all American kids are overweight or obese. Now, why are you surprised? Ultra-processed foods make up 70% of the...
Okay, now let's think about this. Why are the children overweight? Is it because the families are letting the school raise them and maybe the parents are not involved in what the child is eating? Or are we going to blame the companies? Remember, we're adults, so you can buy some grilled chicken, some lettuce, vegetables, rice. I mean, guys, ever since it's been a decade, ever since I graduated high school, I knew grilled chicken was pretty healthy. Yet, I preferred some chicken tenders. You know what I mean? Like, when you're young, if young people were really worried about health, would they consume alcohol at the levels that they do? No.
Calories that kids eat now. Now, most of us millennial girls got our first period when we were 13 to 15 years old. Pediatricians wasted no time telling us that there was a magic pill that could solve all of our problems in a 10-minute wellness checkup with no informed consent about the risks or side effects.
Okay, let's talk about birth control. I know many women that had fertility issues after being on birth control for a decade. I do. But I also remember when the birth control was being passed out and the young women were getting on it. They were not concerned about health. And I remember at that time period, I said, hey guys, I don't think this is good for us. They did not care. And now, I don't know why we're surprised turning off your fertility for a decade has issues. So again, we can blame the companies, or we can take some accountability for our choices and deal with the consequences.
What problems were we solving exactly? A couple pimples. We were advised to not worry about learning to track our cycle or understand our hormones. No conversation about how our likelihood to experience anxiety or depression would increase by 80% on the pill.
And I promise you, they would not care. I promise. The 16-year-olds, 18-year-old women that are getting on these pills are not concerned about health. They are not. Otherwise, they would not be engaging in such risky behaviors. And the data proves this, right? If they were concerned about health, there wouldn't be binge drinking at college. If they were concerned about health, we wouldn't see the obesity rate. If they were concerned about health, we wouldn't see the STD rate we do. We wouldn't see the abortion rate. What data do you have that indicates people are concerned about health.
10 to 15 years went by on the hormonal birth control pill. We stayed on the pill because no one advised us it was only ever supposed to be taken temporarily. Then we wanted to have children. We got off birth control for the first time in our adult lives only to discover that we had major fertility issues that the hormonal birth control hid. Infertility is going up 1% every year.
Okay, why? Remember, 90% of our eggs are gone by 30. 90%. What makes more sense? That it's the companies, the food supply, the birth control. I'm not saying birth control does not contribute, but if I had to guess, based on what I would say is common sense, I would say delaying motherhood is more what causes this stuff. But what we'll do often is we will go blame the companies. When, again, everything's available online, we can solve these problems or at least improve them.
Suddenly, starting a family means spending tens of thousands of dollars on IVF and other fertility treatments because even more medical interventions are always the first solution rather than addressing the root causes of the problem.
Obesity. Again, again, if we're concerned about health, our actions would show that we are concerned about health. But we're not. It says you can get pregnant after 30. That's true. But it's more likely that the kid will have issues, and it's less likely that you will get pregnant. Let's not. It's a much easier to blame the companies, to blame the elites, to blame this big plan. And I'm not even saying that it's untrue. But what I am saying is we have all the tools to prevent these things and we are not using them.
If the IVF even works, millennial moms are seeing the same drama play out for their own children, but on a far greater scale. They want to raise healthy kids, they do. But where can they go for info? The studies are bought and paid for by the food companies.
Okay. Do millennial women want healthy children? If millennial women wanted healthy children, then we would have children when they are the healthiest. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because what I don't like is playing pretend. Let's not pretend that this is all the company's fault and we have no part to play.
They look for unbiased info on the news, but that's funded by Big Pharma. In 2022, the pharmaceutical industry spent an average of $1 billion per month on advertising in the United States. What news company is going to risk reporting the truth if it means missing out on advertising dollars like that? Their pediatrician, these moms' pediatrician, had less than a day of nutrition training in all their years of medical school. They don't even know what seed oils are when they ask about them. If one of my listeners has a child today, there is a 1 in 50 chance that child will have a deadly peanut allergy, 4 times what it was just a few decades ago. And that rate is rising. Children today are about 20% more likely to develop type 1 diabetes than they were 20 years ago. Childhood cancer rates are rising a percentage point every year. Asthma is up, so is ADHD, allergies, virtually every type of psychological disorder. In 1980, autism was diagnosed at a rate of just 3 or 4 per 100,000 kids. Today, a newborn child has a 1 in 36 chance that he or she will be autistic.
Okay, so a lot of these side effects are caused from delaying motherhood. But again, we have to look at this. What's the easier scapegoat? Their fault? Our fault? Their fault? Our fault? And what frustrates me is it just seems like there's always a scapegoat. We never had any part of this. It was just the companies. I mean, how many times are we going to get tricked before we say, hey, you know what? That was my choice. These are the consequences, and that's all right. Or that was my choice. These are the consequences. I didn't research enough. I wasn't concerned about it at the time. I didn't care. Those would be more honest answers because I don't meet, and I learned this from interviewing 1,000 women. The women at 22, they're not concerned about health. At 21, 19, 18, they're taking shots. They're chugging beer at their college parties. I mean, they're not concerned about endocrine disruptors. That's an old woman problem, you know? But the thing is, I know they're saying just say you're a corporate front runner. Guys, I am not saying that what she's saying is untrue. But what I'm saying is I have seen people take health very seriously from a young age. There was a girl in my high school. Her name was Caitlin. This woman, she was on my team. She was on my basketball team. And she ended up quitting sports. And she just got super into nutrition. I mean, she would be measuring stuff at lunch. And she had like really good shape. She'd go to this gym near us. And that was her choice, but she was one of the only woman in our grade that was doing that. So
And that rate is also
really PCOS and undiagnosed chlamydia is more than 50% of infertility in women at 30 trying to have kids. I don't know if that's true, but that's crazy if it is.
rising every year. Who cares about politics if the next generation is dead or close to it before they can even vote?
Gosh. We are the most privileged. Hold on, guys. I just want to show you guys. All right. So we're saying that we're almost dead before we can even vote. I just want to show you what other countries look like.
Hey, young man.
I mean,
Gangster, local gangster.
I don't know. America seems a lot cleaner than this. I don't know. I went to India a decade ago, guys, and you had to bring bottled water because you would literally get sick if you drank the water. They have to boil the water there in order to get clean water. I've never had that problem in America. Us men would be the first to say the problem is me. If men at 18, they got a pill that turned off, they could not have children anymore. Or it turned off their fertility much like our pill. And men took it and said, okay, I know this is a risk, but I do not want to have children right now, which many women do. Do you think at 30 they would have a hearing blaming the doctors? Or do you think they would say, well, I got the short end of the stick? And the reason I'm pointing this out is because we as women, we waste so much money on this stuff. We spend so much money because we can be very neurotic. We can think that it's the end of the world and that we're going to die all the time. I mean, how many of you guys had a mother that always thought she was dying or she had some kind of cancer or whatever? When usually, and men tend to be a lot more observant. It's generally just a couple of habits we have that are bad. It's generally too much sugar. And eating too much sugar, as someone that struggles with that, this is not new information. This is not something that's been hidden. I've known for a decade that this is a problem. This is most overweight people's problems. It's sugary drinks, sugar in alcohol, sugar in bread, sugar in food, cupcakes, donuts. None of this is shocking, and we should not be shocked. And life is a lot better when you realize we have all the answers to our own problems. I mean, what the practices are of some big companies that sell stuff, we can't control that. It's not going to change. And frankly, I don't even think the population wants it to change. Most people want sugary foods. Most people are overweight. So I don't see that issue changing. Yeah, sugar and coffee. I miss Starbucks. I miss it so much.
In 1985, newborn millennials had to follow a schedule of just a handful of vaccines. Today, a child following the recommended vaccine schedule will receive up to 70 shots by the time they turn 18, including 27 before he or she turns 2, and as many as 6 shots in a single visit. Are all these shots producing healthier kids? According to the data, no. Are we allowed to even ask? Also, no. Some parents who've asked too many questions about the recommended vaccine schedule can find themselves reported to Child Protection Services. Or they will get kicked out of their pediatrician's office for not being compliant. This is America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government.
Okay, let's ask the question. Is there an abundance of the population that is rushing to homeschool the children? Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know homeschooling has gone up in the last decade, but would you say that's the majority? Okay, no. Daycare, is that increasing or decreasing? Okay, increasing. We are signing up to give our kids to the government, and parents sign up every year. Now, for some kids, it's fine. I mean, personally, I didn't go to public school, but I liked school. You know, I got to play sports. I had fun. But let's not, what I don't like, what irritates me is I don't like playing pretend, and I like to be accurate. And unfortunately, according to the data, parents are not rushing to spend a ton of time with their children.
Want a divorce.
Wait, what'd she say?
America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government.
Yeah, they did.
We want a divorce.
Women always do. I mean, not all.
But there's more. Remember when I said that my generation had our first period at 13 or 15? Today, little girls are starting their periods at 8 or 9, and they are getting pubic hair as young as 5 or 6. Is it their drinking water, their food, chemicals, and personal care products that other countries have banned? Don't ask, don't tell. Girls are still being pressured to get on birth control, by the way, without informed consent, but now they get the added bonus of an antidepressant to go with it.
I'm gonna hold off on this.
2 for 1 special. Just to reiterate the war on moms in this country, today, virtually everything a child eats or drinks will be served on a plastic plate, in a plastic bottle, or be eaten from a plastic container with plastic utensils.
And whose fault is that? The parents. And all these companies is they are a proxy. We don't want to look in the mirror. So what we would prefer is to say that's the corporation's fault. When a kid is under the age of, say, 16, right? Because maybe 12. The parents are the primary caretaker. They're the most influential on the kid. Who's feeding the kid? The parents. Whose job is it to make sure your kids have healthy foods? Is it the government? I mean, there was a girl in my grade whose parents were health nuts, and they packed her lunch every day and taught her how to do it. Uh, I didn't. I ate the school lunches. I used to have cookies for breakfast when I was in high school. And so it's choices and trade-offs, choices and trade-offs.
Human breast milk now contains thousands of microplastics. If you need formula, you can't find it without inflammatory seed oils or soy. Parents have to order it and buy it from Europe. Does this all seem overwhelming?
What would be the solution to baby formula? What could be that solution? Let me just think. What would be the solution there? Oh, breastfeeding. But we're choosing not to do that. Fine. But what would be more mature is to maybe say, okay, these are the consequences. I will deal with them.
To you, good. This is what the American mom deals with every day. Amen.
Do you see the women clapping and the guys are just like, you people are crazy? Look at that.
The typical American parent today has to worry about a job, about their children's education, about all the things that a parent has always had to worry about. They shouldn't also have to deal with the added stress of finding the poison that lurks in almost everything their child eats or drinks. The American dream is that a parent will be able to raise children who are better off than themselves. But now that dream is vanishing, not just on an economic level, but a biological one. Unless we break this spiral, we will fall into a death spiral of unhealthy parents raising even more unhealthy kids that will bankrupt this country. As RFK Jr. has said, the last thing standing between a child and an industry full of corruption is a mom. Let's make it easier for them.
Okay. So, what I want to point out is that our food supply being poisoned is not really a gendered issue. But yet, there's only sympathy that comes when we make it a mother's issue or a female issue. There's another point in this that I wanted to say that I just don't believe is true. Yeah, this is the other thing. I have a hard time taking women seriously when they're talking about health. If you have a pound of makeup on and a bunch of Botox and you're saying you're worried about health, please forgive me if I just have a hard time believing it. I don't. So, is this on? How do I? Okay. So, I wanted to talk about, is there a war on motherhood? Because she used that phrase during this, that there is a war on motherhood. And sometimes when I hear these phrases, I think they're much easier to say in as a, I don't know, like a media talking point than in reality. Okay, so women, we turn 18. And at 18, we're asked, do you want to have a family, get married? Because remember, we're adults, we can make our own decisions. And we say, or go to college. Let's pretend this is the college. And so there, look at, that's little Sally. And she says, no, I want to go to college. Okay, cool. No problem. So all of society, let's say, the doctors, whatever, they get together and say, well, how do we fix this? She doesn't want to have a family yet. So they give us birth control. So they give us, I don't know, we're just going to pretend that's birth control. So Sally picks birth control college. Fine, fine. Remember, the average age that people have their first sexual experience is like 16, 17 years old. So by college, okay. So she gets the birth control, goes to college. Then after college, they say, do you want to get married and have a family? Here we go. Or do you want to get a job? Pretend this is the desk. I'm not an artist, guys. I do apologize. This is Sally. And she says, no, I want to, and again, not right, not wrong. She says, I want to get a job. And then she does. And so they say, okay, we might ruin this fertility window, but let us make you guys IVF. Let's solve this problem. And now most fertility treatments in your 30s are successful. They are 60%. Now I know that's not all. And then the women, we get kind of fat and we get kind of old, right? That's not good. So, now she's pudgy. I mean, and the men too, right? But this is a woman's life. So now that she's pudgy, then we give them plastic surgery to fix that. So you can go get some Botox, some plastic surgery, and more IVF, fertility, freezing your eggs. Okay, so now Sally says, okay, now I want a family. I'm ready to go back here and have the family. So she gets the IVF, she has the family. Cool. Now there's mother with the husband. Okay, then now they got little Timmy and Tina. And they ask the mother, do you want, okay, now we're going to go through this. I'm going to erase. Guys, I'm running out of, So they ask the mother, they say, Diane, okay, now that you have your 2 kids, 1 to 2 children, do you want to, this is the family life. Do you want to raise your kids? Do you want to be there? Do you want to, oh my God. And she says, no, I don't. Nope. And remember, it's not like the old days. You could argue in the old days, you didn't have time to save, but we just had a decade. We had a whole century to save money for this family, because we all know that, when the kids are young, it's better for them to stay home. So it's not like we couldn't prepare, right? And so they say to Diane, do you want to stay home with the children? Do you want to work? And she says, nah, I'm going to work. And so they say, okay, do you want to pack your kids' lunches, or should we feed the kids at school? What do you think? And she says, I mean, just let the school do it. And so all of these choices that we made have consequences, and that's totally fine. Some people make choices and there's not consequences. But what I don't like doing is saying there's a war on motherhood when we have daycare, IVF, homeschool, Catholic school, normal school. We got all of these choices, right? And yet, there's a war on motherhood. I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing it, guys. I mean, they gave us the ability to have kids till we're 40 if you have enough money. They gave us the ability to save for a decade so you could stay home. They gave us the ability to delay having children, to go get a job, to put the kids in daycare, to have kids with who you want. I'm not seeing this war. And then when there's a trade-off and there's a consequence, then we blame whoever the bad guy is that day. It might be Pearl. It might be me for pointing it out. It might be the media for tricking us. It might be the doctors for quote unquote tricking us. It might be the institutions for tricking us. Or, wait, hear me out. It could just be, now wait for it, guys. I want you to drum roll, please, in the chat. Please drum roll. It could be, I'm going to put this in red so you guys know I'm serious. The consequences of my actions. And what I'll never do is I'll never hate on someone that just owns the consequences. But what annoys me, what irritates me, is when we have to blame everybody else. Yeah, so this is my 2 cents. I'm going to come back now. Open my eyes, Pearl. Victim blaming. I understand that there's birth control in the water and like all this stuff, but guys, go buy a water filter or something. Figure it out. I mean, I feel fine. It's a lot better than if we were in a third world country. So that's my TED Talk today. No, the birth control water and the pathogen and sorry, let me say it again. No, my TED Talk today is no, you are not obese because of the birth control water. You are not obese because they poison the food supply. You're not obese because of the non-stick pans. You're obese because you ate too much and you have health issues because we ate too much. And it's that simple. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, and please let me know. Let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.